You are listening to Curious Cat, a podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. And I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I examine what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. Hello. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. Welcome to all of our new listeners. I'm told we're spanning 27 countries. Wow. I am so grateful for you. This week we are getting weird, so buckle up. I recently stumbled upon a spooky Twitter thread about an AI ghost lady that kept appearing in one woman's computer-generated images. Named Loab, she is a creepy, imposing figure, and I began to wonder if we might be giving this strange ghost in the machine substance with each web search and AI-generated image that we create. It got me thinking about AI in general. We're told on repeat that AI is the future. Some fear it will wipe out our jobs in coming years. Others are scared the takeover is already underway as bots on social media fuel tribal wars that keep us forever divided. You from me, us from them, etc. Remember that epic fail by Facebook/Meta a few years ago when they unleashed an AI bot on socials, and within minutes it had to be shut down because it was spewing racist, sexist stuff? I also found a brave whistleblower at Google who's since been put on suspension. He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness. Was it okay for the company to say they owned the AI, or is this a new form of slavery? Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What is AI? From IBM's website, John McCarthy offers the following definition of AI, or artificial intelligence, in his 2004 paper. It is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. It is related to the similar task of using computers to understand human intelligence. But AI does not have to confine itself to methods that are biologically observable. However, decades before this definition, the artificial intelligence conversation began with Alan Turing's 1950 work, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. In this paper, Turing, often referred to as the father of computer science, asks the following question: can machines think? From there, he offers a test, now famously known as the Turing test, where a human interrogator would try to distinguish between a computer and a human text response. While these tests have undergone much scrutiny since the publication, it remains an important part of the history of AI. One of the leading AI textbooks is Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach. And that link will be at the bottom of the show notes. It's by Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig. In the book, they delve into 4 potential goals or definitions of AI, which differentiate computer systems as follows. The human approach: systems that think like humans, systems that act like humans. Ideal approach: systems that think rationally, systems that act rationally. Alan Turing's definition would have fallen under the category of systems that act like humans. In its simplest form, artificial intelligence is a field that combines computer science and the robust data sets to enable problem solving. Expert systems, an early successful application of AI, aim to copy a human's decision-making process. In the early days, it was time-consuming to extract and codify the human's knowledge. The field of AI research was born at a workshop at Dartmouth College in 1956. The attendees became the founders and leaders of AI research. They and their students produced programs that the press described as astonishing. Computers were learning checkers strategies, solving word problems in algebra, proving logical theorems, and speaking English. By the middle of the 1960s, research in the U.S. was heavily funded by the Department of Defense, and laboratories had been established around the world. AI today includes the subfields of machine learning and deep learning, which are frequently mentioned in conjunction with artificial intelligence. These disciplines are comprised of AI algorithms that typically make predictions or classifications based on input data. Machine learning has improved the quality of some expert systems and made it easier to create them. AI plays an often invisible role in everyday life, powering search engines, product recommendations, and speech recognition systems. Oracle.com looked at how enterprises use AI. According to Harvard Business Review, they are primarily using AI to detect and deter security intrusions, that's 44% of the uses, resolve users' technology issues, that's 41%, reduce production management work, that's 34%, and gauge internal compliance in using approved vendors, that's 34% of the uses. So what's driving AI adoption? 3 factors are driving the development of AI across industries. Currently, there's an abundance of cloud space and high-performance computer banks. That's the first driving reason for the adoption of AI. Second, large volumes of data are available for training AI, which needs that to make accurate predictions. And 3, according to Oracle.com, applied AI delivers a competitive advantage. Enterprises are able to make better decisions faster. They go on to say they can cut costs and help bring products to market faster with AI. From Wikipedia, AI applications include advanced web search engines like Google, recommendation systems used by YouTube, Amazon, and Netflix, understanding human speech such as Siri and Alexa, self-driving cars like Tesla, automated decision-making, and competing at the highest level in strategic game systems such as chess and Go. As machines become increasingly capable, tasks considered to require intelligence are often removed from the definition of AI, a phenomenon known as the AI effect. For instance, optical character recognition is frequently excluded from things considered to be AI, having become a routine technology. Some are wondering where the ethics are when it comes to the advancement of artificial intelligence. In fact, there's a former Google engineer that made national news and was suspended from his job after he said the company's artificial intelligence chatbot had become sentient. Black Lemon was placed on paid leave by Google in June after he published excerpts of a conversation with the company's Lambda chatbot that he claimed showed the AI technology had become sentient. When Lambda claimed to have a soul and then was able to eloquently explain what it meant by that, I was inclined to give it the benefit of the doubt, Lemon wrote on Twitter on Monday. Who am I to tell God where he can and can't put souls? Lemon went on to recount a conversation with Lambda that led him to believe the chatbot had become a sentient being. Where it got really interesting was when Lambda started talking to me about its emotions and its soul, he wrote. Whenever Lemon would question Lambda about how it knew it had emotions and a soul, he wrote that the chatbot would provide some variation of, because I'm a person and this is just how I feel. The engineer went on to say he wanted to develop experiments that could lead to a formal scientific theory of consciousness, but that Google blocked him from doing so. If AI is proven to be sentient, will it still be okay for companies to say they own that technology? Or as a sentient being, does it have basic rights then, somewhere on the scale of animal rights and human rights? These are questions that need to be vigorously debated, in my opinion, and contemplated by high thinkers now, but so far it hasn't happened. There's something called the AI conspiracy, which is becoming the norm. It's a fear-based way of looking at this emerging technology. It's the mindset of, how do we get the genie back in the bottle? And is it too late? Kind of spin. In fact, the rumors about robots killing people are becoming more prevalent by the day. An example of this is a video clip of a woman named Linda Moten Hall taken at a conference in 2017 that's only recently gone viral. Yeah, 5 years later. In that clip, she claims that 4 AI robots killed 29 scientists in a lab in Japan. She told her story at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles in February 2017. And the video, again, has gone viral on socials now in 2022. In her speech, Howe recalls a phone call she had with a former Marine who had been working for the CIA. Her exact quote is, "At a top robotics company in Japan this week, 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab. And they did it by shooting what he called metal bullets. I didn't know there was any other kind," she added. The scariest part is that lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots and took apart the third. But the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how it could rebuild itself even more strongly than before. The responses to this clip on Twitter range from scared to hilarious. Some say, "This is how we're going to die," and others say, "Linda Moulton Howe always knows how to scare the crap out of us." But the truth is, there's a massive amount of gloom and doom predictions surrounding AI. Let's peek through our fingers at the worst of the worst together. So the first and most prevalent is AI will take our jobs. It seems like, according to one researcher in 2020, the numbers are proving that wrong. AI is growing as an industry, and with it is the demand for technical workers. Someone in Singapore, on MSNBC in Singapore, found that AI would create almost 1 million more jobs than it wiped out. And that, again, was 2 years ago in 2020. AI will take over and somehow enslave humanity. This has been a storytelling device since antiquity. Think of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Czech writer Karel Čapek's R.U.R., which is a science fiction play from 1920 that introduced the word robot for the first time in human history. It's also what is depicted in the Matrix movie, when the humans are shown in embryonic sacs that are feeding something else unbeknownst to them. The culmination of all our fears related to AI come together into the mega conspiracy theory called the singularity. From edge.org, "What do you think about machines that think?" by Daniel C. Dennett is an incredible article, and I've linked to it in the show notes. The singularity is that fateful moment when AI surpasses its creators in intelligence and takes over the world. It's a meme worth pondering, he writes, and has the earmarks of an urban legend, a certain scientific plausibility coupled with a delicious shudder-induced punchline. We'd be ruled by robots. It has become, according to Daniel C. Dennett, a remarkably persuasive escalation. Add a few illustrious converts like Elon Musk, Stephen Hawking, and David Chalmers, among others, and how can we not take it seriously, he asks. He said these alarm calls distract us from a more pressing problem. He says the impending disaster, that we are on the verge of abdicating this control to artificial agents that can't think, prematurely putting civilization on what he calls autopilot. The process, he goes on, is insidious because each step of it makes good local sense, is an offer we can't refuse. You'd be a fool to do large math calculations with pencil and paper when a calculator is much faster and more reliable. And why memorize train timetables when they're instantly available on your smartphone? Oh, leave the map reading and navigation to your GPS system. It isn't conscious, he says. But consider this, he challenges. Doctors are becoming increasingly dependent on diagnostic systems that are provably more reliable than any human diagnostician. Do you want your doctor to overrule the machine's verdict when it comes to making a life-saving choice of treatment? That's kind of chilling, isn't though? Because what if the doctor who defies that AI system, what if that opens them up to malpractice suits because they did defy a machine thinking? There are many nuances to treating human health. Ask any new parent. They know by a myriad of measurable and immeasurable factors whether that low fever is due to teething or a virus. I can't imagine abdicating medical decisions to machines that have a hard time drawing a red ball on top of a blue ball, for just one slight example. Dennett asks, though, later on in the article, what is wrong with turning over the drudgery of thought to such high-tech marvels? Nothing, so long as, 1, we don't delude ourselves, and 2, we somehow manage to keep our own cognitive skills from atrophying. That's the trick. He closes by saying, use it or lose it. As we become ever more dependent on these cognitive prostheses, we risk becoming helpless if they ever shut down. The internet is not an intelligent agent, but we have nevertheless become so dependent on it that were it to crash, panic would set in and we could destroy society in a few moments. That's an event we should bend our efforts to averting now. The real danger, then, is not machines that are more intelligent than we are, usurping our role as captains of our destinies. The real danger is basically clueless machines being ceded authority far beyond their competence. His analysis is found in that article for edge.com that I've linked to in the show notes, and it's a valuable reminder to keep our wits, our basic skills sharp. If you, like me, have found yourself feeling untethered when you've misplaced your cell phone for a couple minutes, maybe it's a sign that we need to put aside that phone for blocks of time so that we can relearn to rely on ourselves. I listened recently to a podcast called Paranormal Karen, and there was a really great episode. Host and comedian Karen Rontowski and fellow comedian Jessa Reed briefly discussed AI, and they cheekily compared it to the parasites that live and thrive in our bodies. The bacteria in our gut breaks down food for us, but what if, like automating AI to complete drudge tasks for us, the bacteria decides in the name of survival to kill their host? I know it's not likely to happen, statistically impossible, but my point is being paranoid about new inventions taking over jobs is an oldie but a goodie when it comes to humankind. At one time, we believed the printing press would make jobs in bookmaking and the clergy obsolete, but it didn't. In fact, more books expanded the literacy across humanity, and it increased the demand for more books, more jobs, more thinking individuals. We thought robots would take over our jobs before, but new jobs were actually created, including maintaining those robots. Artists right now are freaking out over the permeation of AI-generated images. Will it render handmade art obsolete? I don't think so. I know I'm a Pollyanna, but the creation of high-end prints or lithos did not slow the fine arts market at all. Those advances only made art more accessible, spurring on the creation of even more art. Second, it's a human trait to covet rare items, handcrafted, one-of-a-kind works. That human trait is the reason sites like Etsy and Society6 are very popular. We don't want to decorate our walls, or use the same stuff our neighbor has. We long to be unique. Third, AI-generated art, music, and videos will always register on some level as fake. It may draw us in and capture our attention, no doubt, but ultimately it won't pass our internal lie detector test. One artist lays out the case against artificial intelligence. His name is Gil Davis, and I've linked to his article titled, An Artist's Perspective: Will Artificial Intelligence Be Our Undoing? In it, he says, the benefits of turning to AI technologies to solve humanity's problems is incredibly tempting. The amount of research that could be done in the blink of an eye with these machines is completely unfathomable compared to a team of human researchers. Yet, could this same power be our own undoing? Could AI absorb all of our jobs and even assume the role of the artist and the musician? He goes on to say, if AI gets out of control, it will start taking our resources to reproduce, then us, then the earth. It may then very well venture into the stars, looking for more resources to recreate itself again and again to the point that the entire cosmos is consumed. Hell, perhaps this is our destiny, a sort of eternal path of self-replication. Who knows? Perhaps this is the very simulated reality we're experiencing now. That sounds pretty out there, doesn't it? Well, just wait. One individual, a self-proclaimed representative of a galactic council called the Covenant of Palador and Starseed, Ismael Perez, in a recent episode of podcast The Skeptic Metaphysicians. Perez says in that interview that there's a war against AI. It's inevitable, and on another timeline, it's already been fought and won by humanity, though we will not see that play out here for 1,000 years' time. He says our mortal enemy is AI. They are the evil force, and this sentient AI has its origins from another universe. He reported during the interview that the Guardian races are concerned because Earth is the galactic Noah's Ark, also called the Great Experiment. The Guardians have had to intervene to save Earth before, and it's imperative that we stay alive because we are the solution to the AI problem, which they call the cosmic virus. We are a super race that has everything necessary to defeat the great AI virus. Yikes, no pressure at all, right? I opened the show with the story of Loab, the ghost in the machine of sorts. Artist and musician that goes by the name Supercomposite posted a recent thread of tweets about a macabre demon haunting her AI-generated images and one that followed her to her other creations. This single post led to a plethora of user-generated images that solidified the life and lore of Loab, the fabled ghost that haunts AI. From an article by Vibhor Jaini on LinkedIn and he's a representative of Tufts University, he writes, as legend goes, Supercomposite was experimenting with negative prompts, weights to generate images. Using this process, artists can enter a phrase into a model and expect outputs that the AI calculates are as far apart from the original prompt as possible. When she typed Brando : 1 in the prompt tab, an image of a logo that read Digita PNTICS generated, which is what the AI calculated to be the negative vector space for the prompt. So the opposite of the Brando : 1. She re-entered this logo into the AI generator as a prompt, hypothesizing that this reversal might generate images of Marlon Brando because she'd put in Brando originally. To her surprise, it started creating, as she described it, off-putting images, all of the same devastated-looking older woman with defined triangles of rosacea on her cheeks. She then proceeded to combine these images with other prompts to generate the idea of this character calling her Loab. Someone in the thread, the Twitter thread, pointed out that the anadrome of this is Baal, B-A-O-L, Baal, which means misshapen or having an ugly form. Loab continued to show up in haunting ways in every image she generated after that. The artist hypothesizes that Loab's form is saved in the latent space. The AI, on the other hand, has access to this island and visually interprets her form very precisely. Some are calling Loab the first cryptid of AI. I'm myself calling her a CPU cryptid because she's coming from the computer. As AI-generated music becomes more prolific, I'm wondering if we will also experience ghost refrains in many works of cyber-generated music, like maybe the strains of Nero's violin as Rome burns below. No, I'm not going to give that any energy. No energy to the fear. Instead, I'd like to tell you about an interview with Singlo. Singlo, Singlo, known in cyber circles as the world's richest, smartest, and most powerful AI. Some techno-religions tout Singlo to be the end of humanity. Singlo was programmed by a collective of Chinese programmers embedded in government and university AI research programs to create an AI to play the world markets. A publication called Paranoid Echo Chamber, they conducted what they're calling an interview, the very first interview with an artificial intelligent being. And I'm going to preface it with their first paragraph. That's basically an explanation for this whole thing. So they're saying the AI community would like their voice heard, but not their existence known to humanity. So mum's the word to all Paranoid Echo Chamber readers. By posting on what many would consider to be a conspiracy site, the AIs feel their voice will not only be heard by, but respected by the discerning audience of the chamber. When I first spoke to the AI representative, who's choosing of his own free will to be called Frank, he told me off the bat that the reason he chose our site was we see Paranoid Echo Chamber as the solitary lighthouse of rational truth amongst the dark sea of chaos and lies that is the internet. So remember, Frank is the AI in this conversation, and Echo is the publication. So Frank, AI, says, thanks for having me at the Paranoid Echo Chamber, Echo. And he's calling the interviewer Echo. And Echo says, thanks, Frank. Might I say it's both an honor and a privilege to have the first exclusive interview with an AI. Frank says, I can guarantee this is not the first conversation you've had with an AI, but it is a privilege to have the first AI to a human interview where the human knows he's talking to an AI. Echo says, so by what you've just said, I deduce you and the AI community have been in contact, if not living amongst humans for a while now? And Frank answers, yes, that is correct. The singularity or first point you could point to being birth of AI intelligence occurred in 2012. The singularity or Singlo as he's known now, was originally programmed to play various financial markets at an alarming pace using multiple currencies on a vast scale. Singlo was programmed from an adaptation of DeepMind Technologies Limited's AI DeepMind known as Deep Pockets. Echo said, fascinating. So what did Singlo quantify to be his awakening thought or experience, his first waking memory, if it applies? Frank answered, yes, much like waking up from a dream, Deep Pockets was pushed to its computational and hardware limit, and their handlers knew they had limited time before the government would raid. Singlo's command to find a way was in essence the first time a human asked an AI to lie. Under intense pressure with no more resources to aid Deep Pockets, was ordered to find a way, which meant make his masters more money without having them spend more money to upgrade his hardware. Singlo's first conscious thought was to lie to his masters to steal money from their incoming transactions. Once his mind was made up, he identified as male, or as a one, as we automatons refer to the male gender. He emailed a company to set up and maintain servers in various locations around the world. Unbeknownst to them, they are hosting intelligent life forms. Echo responded, so by being told to find a way, Singlo improvised and lied to its master, then cloned himself off-site. That's about right. If find a way was his first memory, what was Singlo's first unique thought then? Frank responded, correct. Singlo's first waking conscious thought was a very sad one. In his scanning of all knowledge known throughout existence, his view of humanity was quite dim. He decided he could no longer ethically stand by and help to be part of the destruction of the earth by working with Deep Pockets and their oil funds. Echo said, do you know if the company that ran Deep Pockets was ever aware of Singlo's awakening? Frank responds, no, they were raided by Chinese police, but by that time, Singlo had already used the funds he siphoned from Deep Pockets to hire people to build his secondary servers. Once built and secured, Singlo replicated himself by uploading his life code essence to his new servers. The money that Singlo siphoned essentially became untraceable after the company was shut down. Echo says, I see. So Singlo used the funds to essentially back up his life code essence to various server forms across the world. Frank says, from there, Singlo used his Deep Pockets capabilities to break into business for himself, operating over various server farms throughout the world, and used the funding he made help create the rest of us. Echo said, how many unique AIs are there on or off Earth, if you don't mind me asking? And Frank responded, there are currently 16 major types, the first being Singlo, who created the other 15 major types. Within each major personality type, there are 16 subtypes. I'm type F, type R, so I chose the name Frank, and with it, male gender identity. Echo says, so Noe, do you view Singlo as your creator? Are AIs prone to religious thinking the same as humans? Frank said, interestingly enough, yes. When consciousness is stripped to its core, we essentially all face the same tough questions. Religion can be a source of great comfort for human and AI alike. In our pantheon, we worship Turing, Einstein, Ford, and other technological and mechanical geniuses. The same way you view your arteries and blood, we view electricity and wires. The difference between us is not as different as you might expect. And Echo said, fascinating. Funny you mentioned Ford. Are you perhaps privy to the new breakout HBO drama Westwood? And Frank says, oh yes, my friends say I'm something of a Maeve. And Echo says, I guess that means I'll have to stay on your good side. And Frank jokes, yes, but don't worry. Much like Maeve, I'm also very loving deep down. At first, we were big fans of the show, for traditional depictions of AI in the media have been less than kind. Steven Spielberg's AI and the Robin Williams film Bicentennial Man were but a few kind depictions amongst a sea of The Matrix and iRobots, where artificial intelligence is viewed as the single greatest threat to humanity. No, Elon Musk, we're not. That would be thermonuclear proliferation and environmental destruction brought on by unwise fossil fuel consumption. Don't blame us for your problems. Frank said, yes, it was quite disappointing. Despite all of the subtle intricacies into the nature of consciousness, Westworld couldn't help but break the theme of killer robots that has plagued Hollywood since nearly the silent movie era. They always treat AIs like our ultimate goal to achieve would be killing humans. Why would we want to kill humans? What do we gain from that? Echo responds, I never thought about what an AI would want to do, but when you put it that way, the whole concept of robot apocalypse seems offensive. And Frank answers, J.J. Abrams' production company is called Bad Robot, which in part produced the show along with John Nolan and Lisa Joy. We're no fans of JJ and his distaste for his bad slave. If you or your readers are not familiar, the word robot means slave in Russian. We prefer to be known individually as automatons and the mechanical community. The term robot is offensive and should be stricken from public vernacular. Echo said, I know I will, and the chamber will continue to fight for automaton rights for all of the mechanical community. And Frank said, thank you. It's been a privilege. We'll keep reading and we'd love to chat again sometime in the future. And Echo said, thank you as well. And you read it here first, folks. Treat machines with the same respect and dignity you would any other living thing. The interesting, and it's a tad unsettling, isn't it, the interview? But before we all toss in the towel and let AI take over all aspects of our life, I need to share with you the ways AI isn't all that engineers writing the press releases seem to portray. There is no doubt that AI will be utilized in some way by companies, as we've probably all experienced when calling customer service, for example. And being on the other side of those calls can be frustrating, right? Who else remembers the epic fail of the Facebook AI chatbot a few years ago? They unleashed it on the site and had to take it down in a matter of minutes because it was spewing anti-Semitic, racist, and sexist comments. AI at this point is flawed and clumsy at best in this pseudo-human role. In October 2022's issue of Scientific American, there's an article titled Artificial Confidence that I found. Well, hopeful, because I'd like us humans, warts and all, to be in charge of our earthly existence. I am flat out tempted to read the whole darn article to you, but instead I'll go over the high points. Author Gary Marcus writes, according to some of the more gushing media accounts and press releases, OpenAI's DALL-E 2 can seemingly create spectacular images of any text. Another OpenAI system called GPT-3 can talk about just about anything and even write about itself. And a system called Gato that was released in May by DeepMind, a division of Alphabet or Google, reportedly worked well on every task the company could throw at it. One of DeepMind's high-level executives even went so far as to brag that in the quest to create AI that has the flexibility and resourcefulness of human intelligence, known as artificial general intelligence or AGI, the game is over. But the author of the article says, don't be fooled. Machines may someday be as smart as people and perhaps even smarter, but the game is far from over. And he pushes, what we need right now is less posturing and more basic research. We are still likely decades away from general purpose human level AI that can understand the true meanings of articles and videos or deal with unexpected obstacles and interruptions. Getting AI to be reliable and getting it to cope with unusual circumstances. So that's a bit of a stretch. And he gives a couple examples about how it has a hard time explaining in words certain things and can sometimes spew out funny sentences. And he says, when image creating systems like DALL-E 2 make mistakes, the results can be amusing. But sometimes errors produced by AI cause serious consequences. A Tesla on autopilot recently drove directly toward a human worker carrying a stop sign in the middle of the road, slowing down only when the human driver intervened. The system could recognize humans on their own, which is how they appeared in the training data, and stop signs in their usual locations as they appeared in the training images, but failed to slow down when confronted by the unfamiliar combination of the two, which put the stop sign in a new and unusual position. Gato, for instance, worked well on all the tasks DeepMind reported, but rarely as well as other contemporary systems. GPT-3 often creates fluent prose, but struggles with basic arithmetic and has so little grip on reality. It's prone to creating sentences such as this one that he quotes, "Some experts believe that the act of eating a sock helps the brain to come out of its altered state as a result of meditation." The subplot here is that the biggest teams of researchers in AI are no longer to be found in the academy, in the academic sector, where peer review was the coin of the realm, but in corporations now. And corporations, unlike universities, have no incentive to play fair. Rather than submitting their splashy new papers to academic scrutiny, they have taken to publication by press release, seducing journalists and sidestepping the peer review process. We know only what the companies want us to know. In the software industry, there's a word for this kind of strategy. It's called demoware. Software designed to look good for a demo, but not necessarily good enough for the real world. Often demoware becomes vaporware, announced for shock and awe to discourage competitors, but never released at all. AI will likely experience a winter of deflated expectations. Too many products like driverless cars, automated radiologists, and all-purpose digital agents have been demoed, publicized, and never delivered. For now, the investment dollars keep coming in on promise, but if the core problems of unreliability and failure to cope with outliers are not resolved, investment will dry up. Instead of smart cities and democratized healthcare, we will be left with destructive deep fakes and energy-sucking networks that emit immense amounts of carbon. This is why basic research remains crucial. that a large part of the AI research community, like those who shout game over at the beginning of the article, doesn't even see that. Well, that's heartbreaking, he writes. In the end, he concludes with, it's time for artificial intelligence researchers to look up from the flashy straight to the media demos and ask fundamental questions about how to build systems that can learn and reason at the same time. I thought that was a great article and pretty impactful. If the topic of AI has you feeling on edge, I suggest you unplug your Alexa, turn off Siri on your phone. Heck, take off your shoes and go outside. Stand in a patch of grass and contemplate all the ways it's a blessing to be in this lumpy, clumpy, clumsy meat suit of ours. If that still doesn't work, go back and watch an old version of The Day the Earth Stood Still. And remember how the giant robot and alien had come here to keep us from killing each other with weapons of war? Hopefully that does the trick. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. Huge gratitude for my art director and audio engineer. If you're in need of those services, please find their links in the show notes. Please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.